There's another cannon. It's got like a metal belt around the breech or the back of the cannon. That's called a 10-pound parrot. And the third cannon here in the park is what we call a Napoleon. Those are the ones that look green right now. They're a bronze cannon, and the green comes from oxidation over time. So those are the three main cannons that were used here at Gettysburg. Now this gun here is a reproduction. It's not an original, but the original guns were produced in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania in about 1855. Not too many years prior to the war. And the bore of this gun, obviously, it's a 3-inch bore. It's made out of wrought iron. The tube length is about 73 inches, and the weight of the tube is around 900 pounds. But together with the carriage that it sits on, it's a little over 2,000 pounds, okay? That's a lot of weight. Now, when we shoot this cannon for reenacting and for today's demonstration, we're using a half a pound of powder, 8 ounces. But if we were to do a live fire exercise, or as they did back in the war, they used a pound of powder and a 10-pound projectile.
I'm sorry, it's
Okay?
twice as big. Twice as
Now, if you set that cannon tube at a 5-degree elevation, we could shoot at targets at about 1,800 yards, okay? So, you know, that's a strong mile. It's very accurate at 1,000 yards. If you see this monument down here, it looks a little diamond shaped. We had no problem hitting that monument from here. I think there's a barn here. We could put it through one of the windows of that barn. That's how accurate these guns are.
Way out.
Now, during the time of the war,
See where that car just drove past?
our
Here's
government
another car coming
purchased
right at that
1,000
marker
of
there.
these cannons.
Monument, you could hit that. They could
If
hit
you
that
go
with
around the
cannon.
battlefield and you look at the muzzle of the cannon, you might see a year that it was made, 1862, 1863. You might find that. Now, General Meade had about 41% of his artillery on the field were this particular 3-inch ordnance gun. Let's talk about the uniforms of the day. You'll see that these guys, as well as myself, have red trim. That's artillery. If it's a blue trim, it's infantry. If it's a gold or a yellow trim, that's cavalry. Those colors are still being used today. So if I approach somebody, an officer, for example, or an NCO, I could tell who they were by the color of their uniform or their shoulder boards or the trim on their uniforms. So I want to introduce our gun crew to you, and I'll try to explain just in general. Each one has a specific job. It's a very orchestrated process to fire this gun. We'll start with number 1. He's at the front of the gun with the sponge rammer, and what he does, he wets that sponge in a bucket of water, runs it down the tube after it's been fired to extinguish any unburnt embers that are in the gun tube. We don't want to load a gun with unburnt embers. It's catastrophic to the guy doing it, okay? So we try to wet it down and extinguish those. When the gun is loaded, or being put the charge and the projectile in it, he will also use the rammer end to shove it down into the breech of the gun. Number 2 is Private Rich, and he's got a thing called a worm. It looks like a double corkscrew on the end. It's used for opening a big jug of wine. I just want to see if you're paying attention. Okay, no, it's designed to go down in the gun tube after it's fired, and you twist it and try to extract maybe a partial unburnt wool bag with the powder was, in today's case, tin foil. That's what we make our charges out of, okay? He also loads the gun. Number 3, this is Private Jim. and he's got this thing on his thumb. The Army couldn't afford a full glove for you, so they only gave you the thumb. See, there was budget cuts then too. But that is designed on the thumb. He puts his thumb over the vent hole to create a safety condition. And of course, the gun might be hot. Just the sunshine alone on it can make it hot. So that's what that's for. Also, he pricks the charge. He will take the prick, run it down the vent hole, and poke a hole in the powder charge so that a flame could be introduced to it by, if I get it here, by this little thing here. It's called a friction primer. It's about the size of a firecracker. It's made of brass. But when you pull this wire with the lanyard, it creates friction inside, causes a flame to shoot down into the powder charge, and all of a sudden we have an explosion in the cannon. That big kaboom, which you just heard. Okay, going to the guy who fires the cannon, number 4, Private Rich. He has a lanyard which he hooks onto that primer. And when he's all ready, everybody's declared safe and ready to fire, he gets the command to pull that lanyard and makes the gun go boom, boom. That's right. See, some of you are paying attention. Okay. Number 5, and sometimes number 6 and 7 are on the box, and they prepare ammunition that the gunner calls out. And then when the gunner calls for it, it's advanced to the gunner, the corporal standing here, and he approves what he sees in the bag, then takes it up to number 2, which number 2 loads the gun. And then we have the gunner, our corporal here, Corporal Ron. He's in charge of the gun. He calls the commands on the gun itself. He has an instrument there, a sighting device to aim the gun, a pendulum device, which he will place on the back of the gun. It has to be removed before firing, or it'll disappear on us. So anyway, that way he can raise or elevate or depress the gun tube, or number 3 moves the trail spike right or left for right or left deflection. We also have a couple officers out here on the field. A gun battery typically is 6 guns, sometimes 4, most of the time 6. So you have your 6 guns, and they're divided up into pairs. You have a left section, a center section, a right section. And each section is led by a lieutenant. And this is the role of this fine young man, Lieutenant Wade, and he'll command 2 guns, but today there's only 1. Now, these 6 guns are also in the care of a battery commander, which is Captain Steve over here. He's in charge of 6 guns. Now, I'm a field officer, and I may have multiple duties, but essentially the field officers may have up to 3 gun batteries to command. So that's 18 guns, and and the batteries might be spread out, so somehow we got to communicate to all these batteries what's going on in the field. So anyway, and it may involve moving a battery from here down the road, some other position. Okay. We have different projectiles here. First of all, this is a wool bag, and this would be like your pound of powder. That's how it was packaged. A projectile may look like that, and boy, it's warm. Okay. So this particular projectile do an air burst above enemy troops. They might have this cigarette-looking thing made out of paper mache, has markings on it, and we have charts in the limber box which shows how much time needs to elapse. So this thing can be fired. When it's fired out of the cannon, the flame from the cannon will start the fuse burn, and hopefully it explodes at the right time. This particular round is a solid shot. This is a building buster, if you will. And this farm down here, I think in the gable of the barn is a shell hole, probably created by something like this. If you're using a rifled gun, when the explosion happens, this brass cup on the end of the round would expand into the rifling of the gun. Anybody throw a football before? Why do you throw a spiral? Yeah, create stability, right? Well, they learned that from artillery because that rifling caused this to spin, just like a football. Now we know where Tom Brady learned his skills. Okay. So, and the last projectile, this is called a canister. It's basically a big shotgun shell. And it's crimped on the end. It has like marble-sized shot in it. Now, when Colonel Pickett was moving his troops forward towards the high water mark here, these were being fired all along the gun line here. And they were putting 2 and 3 of these in a hasty manner, getting at least 2 shots fired every minute, and throwing all this shot. And essentially what happened, it wiped out Colonel Pickett's division. Colonel Pickett in the movie goes to General Lee, and General Lee says, "Colonel Pickett, where's your division?" And Colonel Pickett, in deep shame, says, "I have no division." Had to be a pretty tough thing to express. So, anyway. Okay, this is all, you hook the gun up behind this limber. This would be back a lot farther, but there would be 6 horses pulling this limber. The limber box held about 50 rounds and its equipment and powder. And the Confederates used 4 horses. And the reason is, Confederates had a horse shortage. And horses were a big target as well as killing men. Kill the horses, you can't pull the artillery. Makes sense, right? So, if you can kill 2 or 3 horses, it really hampers the pulling of the gun and its movement and maneuvers. So, at this time, you're going to hear clear and concise commands given from the battery commander to his lieutenants, to their respective guns, and firing the next round. And when we're done with this, wait a minute or 2, we'll declare the gun safe, and you'll be able to go down and talk to these guys on the gun, take pictures, examine everything, ask any question. There's no dumb question out here. And we want to thank you for coming.